Here's a weird one because I thought we already dealt with this like 8 years ago. As somebody who saw the rise of Melanie Martinez, I thought the fall would have been done for years now. Melanie Martinez is a pop artist most well known for an album called Crybaby that was released in 2015, 10 years ago, which terrifyingly enough was the year that I was 18 and a freshman in college. This is when she really blew up, but many of us had our first introduction to her from American Horror Story Freak Show, and I think AHS is still on today, but it's not what it was. This was the last season with Jessica Lange, y'all. It was a big friggin' deal. You have to remember that this was a time where every other millennial had a t-shirt that said "Normal people scare me." So it was big for Melanie to get this trailer. Being the way that fanatical teenagers are, a lot of us heard the song, were so excited, and went and looked up this person for the first time. Fast forward to August 2015, the release of her debut album, Crybaby. Myself and many others were already locked and loaded to just download the entire album and start listening after it was already in our libraries. It had a lot of elements that just were the moment, the late 2010s. However, in my opinion, even back then, I knew they were dated, and so I am a little bit surprised to see that they've lasted this long. Much like those cringy American Horror Story Etsy t-shirts, "Normal people scare me," that was basically the lyrics of every single song on Crybaby. There's a couple songs about relationships that turn into stalking or violence. There's a couple of songs about like how the domestic family, the white picket fence behind closed doors, is a giant mess, self-medicating, abuse. I don't know how else to say it besides I thought it was phenomenally deep as someone whose frontal lobe still had about 7 years to go. And like I said, it was part of the moment as well. These days, this kind of thing seems a little kitschy, a little campy. And so while I was initially surprised to see that she is still somewhat popular today for the same album from 10 years ago, but that her fan base did not age. Like, I aged out of it, and so new recruits who were toddlers when this came out are now her insatiable fan base that will not hear a single word of criticism about her. However, hell of a person to pick, because there is a lot to criticize about Melanie Martinez. It's crazy that this has actually brought out more lore and more reason for me, someone who's known this woman for a decade, to dislike her even more. Because this coloring book that people are talking about, it was released in 2016, but I had not seen it until this week. I also just want to take specific note. I chose this article because it's one of the very few images people show of Melanie Martinez where she is dressed her age. She looks like a grown woman, which she is. Because you see in the coloring book, which basically it looks like it has a page for every song on the album Crybaby. Like, I recognize the lyrics pretty well, so I saw that depicted in the photographs, or illustrations rather. Thank goodness for Melanie that they're only illustrations, because if they were photos, I'm pretty sure she'd be in court. Right now, the coloring book is resurfaced and it's circulating around TikTok. I am not going to be sharing images of it here, but if you really need to go see it for yourself, you can search it. It's there. Not every single image is directly suggestive, but there are a couple that are pretty indisputable. The fact that the little pigtailed crybaby character is obviously crying through all of these stories and these images, the images quite literally look like a little girl being abused. And you could dispute that all you want, okay? But at the very, very least, this was horrible marketing. It's the job of the person creating the product to make sure there's no wiggle room for consumers to interpret something inappropriate, because the court of public opinion rules above all. And as many people who work in children's illustration will tell you, there are some very, very staple elements to drawing children that you just make sure there's no way to misinterpret it. For fans who, again, I want to point out, are children. It was like teenagers like me 10 years ago, and now it's still teenagers, because that is who she attracts. Let's think about whether or not that's on purpose. If they don't want to stick with the claim that there is nothing suggestive about these photos, because it's a pretty hard argument to make, then they say that she is simply like making an expressive statement on trauma. But if you do any research on Melanie Martinez, you know that she did not experience any trauma similar to that. And so now the excuse is that she's helping depict other people's trauma. Who gave her the authority? At that point, it just seems like she's using her imagination to display something that she kind of, she likes looking at, and she'd like for you to like looking at it. Y'all figuring it out? Like, there is no point for this coloring book to exist at all. And just to top it off, I want to be clear. When I said that myself and many others who initially were fans of Melanie Martinez moved on, it wasn't just that the music was for a brief moment. Because mind you, 2016 music was popping. We were going through a lot. But things came out about her like right away. She gave us off vibes pretty quickly. And if you know anything about this person, again, you go and look it up. She has been accused of SA, not anonymously. In fact, Melanie's accuser actually says that the lyrics of one of her songs on the Crybaby album is about the evening that she attacked him. And I would go as far as to say that her fan base's age range is intentional, and to a degree, she has also broomed them. That's my opinion, and I can guarantee they will be proving my point in this comment section, which is why I chose to make the video. I think it's pretty important to talk about.